The Wind That Shakes the Barley by Robert Dwyer Joyce. I sat within a valley green, I sat me with my true love, my sad heart strove to choose between the old love and the new love. The old for her, the new that made me think on Ireland dearly, while soft the wind blew down the glade and shook the golden barley. 'Twas hard the woeful words to frame, to break the ties that bound us, but harder still to bear the shame of foreign chains around us. And so I said, the mountain glen I'll seek at morning early, and join the bold united men, while soft winds shake the barley. While sad I kissed away her tears, my fond arms round her flinging, the foeman's shot burst on our ears, from out the wildwood ringing. A bullet pierced my true love's side, in life's young spring so early, and on my breast in blood she died, while soft winds shook the barley. I bore her to some mountain stream, and many's the summer blossom I placed with branches soft and green about her gore-stained bosom. I wept and kissed her clay-cold corpse, then rushed o'er vale and valley, my vengeance on the foe to wreak, while soft winds shook the barley. But blood for blood without remorse I've taken at Owlet Hollow, and I laid my true love's clay-cold corpse where I full soon may follow. As round her grave I wander drear, noon, night, and morning early, with breaking heart whene'er I hear the wind that shakes the barley.
Merry meet, mortals. I am but a wiry wood nymph known as Pung, but my friends call me Pan, here to tell a tale of fellowship folly. Many know of Robin Hood stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. This is the story of the rich stealing from the poor, leaving them without bread. Fellow plebeians, hear of a poor peasant's plight. If perchance you are here for tonight, know this: there is a fire that burns within us all. See here a fireplace, brick of red, in a Paris prison turned museum. 'Tis your modern day. In the fire lie 3 lit logs. On the mantel, a closed amber 4 o'clock flower shows 2 in the afternoon. By tell, an 18th century prison cell faces the fireplace. Next to it hangs a coal black fire alarm. Engraved on it are the words, "Pool for fire." Mrs. Talleyrand is on a field trip with her class. Suddenly, New World unruly student Frankie bursts out of a door like a firebolt, chasing the tranquil Lynette. Sitting on the hearth, unnoticed, a man resembling a French patriot watches the 2 play out their dance around the fireplace. Annette retires to join her best friend, Milo, who is standing near the cell. Frankie is a buffoon, a currish, clay-brained coxcomb.
My grandma and your grandma were sitting by the fire. My grandma told your grandma, I will light your pants on fire.
Above the fireplace hangs an antique plaque, which the patriot dusts off, revealing the name Pete. Tired of his gum, Frankie, a fool-born gudgeon, deposits it on Pete's name.
Gross, Frankie. Flag. It's flag, not pants. You have it all wrong. The line is, I'm going to set your flag on fire. Surf the web. Duh.
Nay, I know what I said. You have your version and I have mine. My version's better.
Frankie pulls out the last bite of his repast. After he stuffs his mouth, he throws the swaddling on the ground. His teacher, Mrs. Talleyrand, sees this.
Franklin, enough. Pick that up. I'm at my wit's end with you today. I have just about had enough. You sit here, Frankie, and wait for me while I gather up the rest of the class and if you move 1 inch, is an F for this semester. Annette, come with me. For Pete's sake, Frankie, you sit here, stop horsing around. I mean it. May I have everyone's attention, please? Here we have the concierge's memorial plaque. Tragically, more than 2,700 people perished in the conciergerie alone. This marker is important because it signifies all the innocent lives lost. Many people who were imprisoned were political prisoners, prisoners of their own beliefs. They died because they disagreed, or like Lucille de Molins, simply showed compassion for a convicted loved one, a time when crying was a fatal crime.
A crime?
Yes, Lucille. Plea to Robespierre's to spare her husband Camille's life got her a one-way ticket to the Widowmaker.
What's the Widowmaker?
What's the Widowmaker?
Good question, Annette. The Widowmaker is the guillotine's nickname. Like the spider, she devoured many husbands like Camille.
And why did Cammy have to die?
Because he was such a loser with the girl's name. Camille.
Frankie!
Why did Cammy die? Another good question, Annette. The funny thing is that before the revolution, in college, Robespierre and Desmoulins were best friends. Along with the revolution came changes in Robespierre's greed for power. Anyone who got in the tyrant's way died. Friends became instant enemies. Well, Camille objected to these changes in Robespierre's ideals. He stood up to him and lost his life. Innocent people like Desmoulins died because they dared to lift their voices. Today, I ask you, how many people would have died for simply standing up to your president?
Well, France, for one. And the Dixie Chicks.
What was that, Frankie?
Nothing.
Quiet. I want to hear this. Mrs. Talleyrand makes a good point.
Oh, and that teacher's pet. Oh, and that teacher's pet.
Frankie! Mrs. Talleyrand?
Frankie, enough! If I have to tell you one more time.
It's just a bunch of bull, Mrs. Talleyrand. Dead French dudes fighting and losing their heads.
Why is it a bunch of bull, Frankie?
I don't know. It's just what my grandpa told me. That and the dudes were running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. He said it was just a bunch of bullshit.
Franklin! There is more to it than that. It is about fighting for the causes. Liberty, equality, and fraternity. The fight for freedom from hunger and to voice oneself. Issues that are still important today. Now, if you will all follow me to Marie Antoinette's cell.
The group of students follows Mrs. Talleyrand. Frankie remains behind and sits on the hearth, where he soon falls asleep.
Hey there, firebrand.
Huh? Whoa, man! Who's there?
Just who do you think you are, Frankie? A rebel without a cause? 4 weary walls through which you sail stay free.
What? Who? Stay free? How do you know my name?
That is not important. I know lots of other things. For example, you love dominoes.
Pizza?
No, the game. Are you always thinking about your stomach?
Well, yes. Besides, I don't see what's so important about this stupid revolution anyway.
Pete reaches into a sack and scoops crushed grain. The grain gently falls from his fingertips like rain back into the bag. He looks at the seeds as if they were sands of time.
Small, is it not? Simple, is it not? Looks like nothing. Look closer. It's enough to feed a king's army. It's enough to wage a revolution. Voiceless people, for one. 2 poor people starved, and some died while the rich and powerful abused their positions. They took advantage of the poor's labor. The rich received tax cuts while the peasants were too poor to party. Yet they were forced under penalty of death to pay taxes.
Oh? When did that ever happen? How did they do that?
The rich abused the hard-working poor by selfishly taking and using the poor's tax money to indulge themselves. They used it to buy luxurious things at the poor's expense.
You don't make any sense.
The French Revolution is a domino game. When one domino falls, the whole chain follows. The aristocratic revolt, the first domino, set the wheels in motion and started the French Revolution. The revolution follows for every action there is a reaction theory. In this case, the peasants' revolt, or the second domino, sets off the chain reaction.
Oh, whatever. Now you're talking utter nonsense. And I care about this pathetic piss-ants because...
Piss-ants? After all, why should you care about the piss-ants when you care about the almighty buck, my good fellow Puck? Are you not? It's time you walk like a man, my son.
Huh? I'm a man?
Are you sure?
Yeah!
You speak of that which you do not know. People struggle to make ends meet, and you are off on some pirate trip. You're positively scraping the sky fire. Son, why don't you come back down to ground zero? Manage your badass attitude for a change. How dare you speak to me like that, you insolent fool? Of fools and kings, you are not above the law, any more than the king.
Insolent?
Did you receive frostbite at some point?
What's that supposed to mean?
You're a cold stone to the core. You make frostbite look warm. Me. What is with the narcissistic behavior?
Narcissistic? Wow, that's a big word for a little man like you. Speaking of ticks, you're giving me one. I'm not whatever. At least I own a mirror. I'm not the one who's dressed up to go to some Halloween party, which, by the way, was last October.
Son, you put the me in American. Your remiss arse needs a moonshiner's swift kick.
I do not.
You have food on the table and a roof over your head. You are not sleeping out on the street on cold concrete. You do not have to worry about where your next meal comes from. If I had 3 loaves a day, I would be content not to have a burning sensation in my stomach. What more do you need?
What more do I need?
Yes.
Nothing. So what if I have food on the table and a house and I'm not sleeping in the cold concrete and I'm not worried what I'm going to eat next? Of course I know where it comes from. Even with my mom's hectic teaching schedule, she prepares 3 square meals a day. Speaking of squares, what difference is it to you?
Plenty. You did not fight a war to return to find it was all for nothing and your friends were all dead. Some of them shot and killed before your own eyes. A real Kodak moment, let me tell you.
Well, my grandfather is a Vietnam veteran, so spare me the boring lecture, okay? I have heard it all before, and so has my father. What do you know about the Vietnam War? You weren't there. You never served. My grandpa did. You can't be a day over 30.
I am 28, Frankie.
My grandpa was in the Vietnam War. He even showed me pictures. He talks all the time about his friends all survived and they all live in veteran centers. But he says when they first got back, there weren't any parades or parties, and they all got treated mean by people that said that they were baby killers and murderers. Grandpa says the government didn't help him or any of his friends when he got back from the war, and they really had a hard time finding jobs. He says all the soldiers got used by the greedy government and greedy politicians. So lots of soldiers fought and died or almost died and got hurt, then left on their own, just so our government could make a fast dollar. Why should I like the government if it does things